But if there is something that you really want to test and see if it works, I always advise patients to do it in 3 steps. And this method I find works best to avoid major flare-ups, because you will know by now, likely if you've had this for a long time, how depressing it can be when everything's been going well and then you just overdo something and suddenly it feels like you're back to square one because your pain's flared up. If you do this method, if something is going to irritate your tendon, it will only be a little bit more uncomfortable and it should calm down within a few days. So it allows you to test things without actually really putting your pain into overdrive. So the first thing you do is whatever you test, you do a very short and simple session first. So you do no more than 10 minutes usually, and you do it at a really light intensity. So if you're doing cycling, for instance, really low gears or easy gears and really short period of time. You check how you feel while you're doing the activity. It's absolutely normal, especially if you've had your pain for a long time, to be more aware of that area while you're doing something. And the research shows that it's absolutely fine to feel discomfort while you're exercising, as long as it doesn't go into really pain. So they talk about higher than a 3 out of 10 is usually not that great. But 3 out of 10 is very, what does that really mean? So I tend to tell my patients that you need to watch out for more than a niggle. So if you think, oof, I'm a little bit aware of it, I'm a little bit worried about it, but it's not really what I would class as pain or really uncomfortable, or it's in line with what I can feel in my day-to-day things, then that's likely okay. If you start thinking, oof, I'm a lot more uncomfortable now and it's starting to feel like something I can start classing as pain, then you likely need to stop that activity at that point. But like I say, if you just feel a little bit of discomfort, you can pretty much ignore that. But then the third step is you have to check how it reacts in the 24 hours after that. So sometimes, well, quite often, tendons have a delayed pain response. So you don't feel the pain in the moment, you only feel it hours later or sometimes the next day. So again, the research shows that it's absolutely fine to be more aware of your injury in the 24 hours afterwards and have a slight increase in your pain above your normal levels. But if it's significantly more uncomfortable and that discomfort lasts for more than 24 hours and takes a day or two to calm down, then likely that activity isn't great at the moment. So you've got to either adapt it, and if you can't adapt it that it doesn't do that, then you have to leave it for later on. And it's not because it's necessarily making your injury worse. It's often just that it's actually irritating the pain system. And the problem is, the more you irritate the pain system, the more sensitive it gets. So then it starts creating pain more often for things that it shouldn't even create, and it just spirals everything worse. So although it's not worsening your injury, it's making it worse in a sense because you're painful worse, and that feels to you as if your injury is getting worse. So it's really worth keeping your pain levels at a low level while you exercise. Cycling is unfortunately also a problematic movement for the high hamstring tendons, and it's for 2 reasons. One, the saddle usually presses directly on the injured area, which can be really, really aggravating and not useful. And 2, you're in that bent over position, and even if you're not fully bent over, you usually lean forwards a bit and your legs come up quite high. So you've got that stretch action with working the hamstring in that stretched position. So it's a bit sad for cyclists because there isn't really an exercise that can work that well to replace cycling specifically. However, you can if you use the recumbent bike. That can sometimes be useful because then you're sitting on a flat surface. Usually, some of them have got saddle-shaped seats, but most of them have flat surfaces. And you can lean back slightly so that you don't have that greater angle in the hip. So often people who can't sit on a regular bike find that they can do recumbent cycling. Obviously, just put it in a very light gear again. You could also just try on your own bicycle to be more upright or get a padded saddle. But to be honest, the padded saddles sounds like a good idea, but I don't really find they are that useful because they actually make the saddle wider, which then presses more on the area. And even if it feels okay for 2 minutes, then it usually starts hurting again. So I would say with cycling, if you feel any discomfort while you're doing it, especially from just sitting on the bike, it's likely not going to be an option for you.